Hey, Bethany.
Hey, Charlie, how's it going?
Fantastic. Bethany Bump, Legacy Mutual Mortgage. And we were chatting on the phone yesterday about what's going on in this crazy market. And there's just so much bad news and like misinformation, in my opinion. It's all just clickbait because every one of these articles we read that talks about how bad the market is or how, what a slump it is, if you read close enough, there's always something in that article that talks about how there's just not enough homes still for the number of buyers out there. But I won't lie, I don't know where these buyers are. They've kind of quit calling. We were covered up with buyers when the market was a huge seller's market and people were having to go 30, 40, 50,000 over asking price. Now that you can buy a home at asking price or below, and all the buyers are gone. I just think it's crazy. And I just think we need to get the news out there and share it with people to know the sky isn't falling, right?
That's right. I know when people were willing to pay 50 to 100,000 over value, or not value, but what the house was listed at. And now that they can get some closing costs paid for and get a
Yeah.
deal on the list price, seems like we've got, like you said, some misinformation out there, and people are starting to get scared and wanting to see what the market does.
We just got a VA buyer closed this week. I think we ended up with 21,500 in total concessions between money off the asking price and ultimately when the veteran closed, I believe they got back $4,000.
I mean,
So, I mean, now's definitely a time to get out there. And what I'm afraid of is people are just going to continue throwing their money down their into their landlord's pocket because you got to live somewhere. Rents certainly are going up, and yeah, these interest rates going up has certainly cost you more per month. But Bethany wants to share some news that I think is more proof on why you should not wait
yeah.
because we've got a lot of things going on. Let's start off with this slide about the baby boomers. This is one of the things that blows my mind is I don't want to see this generation, afraid to buy a home and wasting their money on rent.
Right. So it's predicted that about 140 million millennials and Gen Zs will either move into a rental or a starter home this year. And I was telling Charlie, as a millennial myself, what I do when I'm about to make a big financial decision is go to the good old Google to see what's happening, right? Um, and Google is filled with the clickbait and why it's not a good time to buy. And we just don't want this generation to lose out in all of that appreciation that comes with buying your first starter home and all of that good stuff. So Charlie and I are trying to figure out how to be this generation's Google and let them know why it's still a good time to buy. And we can kind of get into that. And to your point, Charlie, with your veteran buyer who is getting 21,000, you said, and closing
Yeah.
costs paid for. I mean, using some of that money to buy down your interest rate saves hundreds of dollars versus decreasing sales prices. So, I mean, that's a whole nother strategy that we could look into. But um, the forecast for appreciation, I know that's a big fear right now. Are you hearing it where people are scared that they're going to buy a house and then the market's going to crash and they're going to be upside down?
Well, I heard it more when the people were going 20, 30,000 over asking price. They said, "Oh, do you think I'm ever going to get this money back?" And at the time, the statistics were, yeah, things are going to continue to appreciate. And here in Texas, especially, that's just not going to change, in my opinion.
Right. We still have lots of people wanting to move to Texas. Home price forecast for 2022. So they surveyed 7 major players in the housing market to see where they thought the forecast for home prices were going to be over the next year. And each of them said at least 6.2% appreciation for this year. Some as high as even the 10.8%. So on average, between all 7 players, 8.7% is the average appreciation that we're still going to see for the year.
And that's just by the end of 2022. It's just, I'm seeing it myself. I'm looking every day at the MLS to see what's going on, Bethany. And right now, last time I looked, which was about 3 days ago for Boerne, for example, I think there was, of all the homes that had closed in the last 30 days, the mean list price to closed price was 100%. It was still sitting there at 100%, with several homes, selling at 101, 102%. Some of them were selling at 98%, but the mean was right at 100. And the numbers for San Antonio in the last 30 days are still the same. So, certainly prices aren't going backwards, and the trend with real estate is always forward. So I'm sticking to that slide. I like it. I'm going with that.
I like it too. Mortgage rates are a big concern right now for a lot of, especially first-time home buyers, because especially the millennial and Gen Z generation, we're used to the 2-3%, but historically rates are still good. They are still low. And even I wanted to show this chart, Charlie, because the gray in the background, I don't know if you can see it, but the gray in the background are the recession years. Okay. And the blue is showing the interest rates, the average interest rate on a 30-year fixed mortgage. So I wanted to just point out that after every recession we're seeing interest rates come back down. So that's why all of the economists are predicting that sometime in the future, whether it be, a year or 2 or 3, that rates will come back down a little bit. And so people are thinking, okay, well, what if I just wait for the mortgage rates to come down instead of buying right now? Because then my payment will be less, and then I'm paying less interest, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm telling people is, date the rate, right? We'll date the rate because I can't protect you from appreciation.
Yeah.
I can't protect you from that 8% appreciation over the year, but we can refinance you out of that rate once the rates do come back down. And so I think just to put it in numbers, right? Because people like to see real hard facts. We can talk generalities all day. But today, if you bought a $500,000 house at a 5.25% interest rate, your monthly payment would be about $39.29 a month.
Okay.
And that's with 10% down. So in 1 year, with the appreciation at a conservative 5%, not the 8% we were talking about, your equity that you have in the home between the appreciation and your down payment is about $73,800.
Okay.
Now, if you buy that same house next year and with the 5% appreciation, that same house is going to be $525,000. And let's just say the rate comes down a whole percent. So it comes down to 4.25%. Your monthly payment does go down about $100 a month, but your appreciation is only at your down payment at the $52,000, not your appreciation, your equity in the home.
Yeah.
And so you've lost out on $21,346 in 1 year because you wanted to wait for that rate to come down.
Can I add some salt to that wound?
Yes, please.
Also see that? If you're paying $2,000 a month in rent, that's also how much money you're going to throw away in rent in that year.
Right. So it's more like 40,000.
Yeah.
That's a great point, because I did not account for the rent that you would be paying.
New slide. New slide opportunity.
Yes, for sure. And so that just goes back to, okay, well, what if the rates come down? Well, let's refinance when the rates come down, and then you've got $20,000 of equity to to maybe drop some PMI, some private mortgage insurance to get your payment even lower. So I think that when we put it in numbers like this, it's a little bit easier to grasp than just saying right now is a good time to buy. Actually giving the charts and the facts and the numbers and being the Google, right?
Yeah.
So, and then we still are in a shortage of inventory. I know we're coming back up in some inventory, and we're sitting maybe 2 months now as opposed to flying off within 24 hours, right? But after the 2008 housing crash, builders started pulling back on building those homes, and so there just isn't as much inventory as we need for those 140 million new buyers, not to mention all of the other generations that are still looking.
Yeah.
So just thought that was a good point as far as appreciation.
I remember a statistic, and I want to see if I'm remembering it correctly, that over the last 30 years, the average mortgage rate has been 13%. Is that right?
Right.
And so what we're at right now, while it may seem a little painful compared to where we were a year ago, we are still statistically much lower than our parents probably got. And I know everybody's heard these stories of people at 17, 18% on mortgages, but the fact of the matter was those people bought at that rate, and when they sold, they made money. That's the thing about real estate is the longer I heard it, and I think it's one of the most brilliant comments, is that if you want to look like a genius at real estate investing, buy a home and wait.
That's right. Right. Yes.
Even people that bought in 2007, ended up making money if they were able to wait.
Correct. It's the best hedge against inflation because of the appreciation that you're getting. My grandpa always said, they'd never make more land, right? So there's never more land to make. So it's always going to hold value.
Let me see if I can share this and show this to you. It's a brand new article I just got today. Okay. Let me see if I can share my screen with you. Can you see that?
I can, yes.
All right. This is a mortgage rate projections by those same players you were talking about a second ago. This is a brand new updated from an article just out today. And I just wanted to show you where the experts think mortgage rates are going. If somebody's out there saying, well, I'm just going to wait for them to come down and it might be next month. We don't think it's going to be next month, but we want to share is this good information that most of the experts think we're going to end up being in the low fives, maybe by this time next year in the high fours. But if you are waiting, I think you may be making a mistake.
Right.
I think now's the time, especially those cash heavy buyers. Again, the ones that we were seeing last February and March, where they had 20% down plus all that extra money if the house didn't appraise. Those are the buyers right now that I think could be really getting out and crushing it, because sellers are a little nervous, just like the buyers. They don't know if they're going to get what they're asking for the house. And it's my opinion, let's try to get them to lower their price a little bit, especially if you're bringing a good, strong offer. And that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah. So bottom line, it's still a good time to buy, date the rate.
Yeah.
And get that appreciation. Like I said, $40,000 in a year. Where else can you make that kind of money? Not in the stock market right now.
Right. Absolutely. Bethany, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can give me a call. My phone number is 210-854-4460. Call or text me. And if you have any questions, happy to help.
Hey, thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate your time, Bethany.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks for having me, Charlie.